this is better than anything Naughty Dog's done. And I'm like, straight up facts, that's not true. I got reached out by an amazing guy called Robin. He told me how he had access to a Vicon motion capture volume. At the time, I was actually writing a Last of Us piece. Let's run with this. Let's like actually flesh this out. We had a half day with a handful of people doing a lot of the infected. I was ready to get the suit on and just play every infected. Like I was like, look, I'll do it. Before then, it had just been me. The moment you go over 3 people in a Vicon volume, you start to get a lot of twitching.
Not a great scene if they're not clickers.
It was perfect for that.
You know, you saw Unreal Engine. Is it the power of the real-time side?
It was so exciting, and it allowed me to really focus on storytelling, stuff that keeps people watching your content and enjoying your content.
Are there any boundaries that you shouldn't cross when creating a fan-made short film?
You need to make the decision early on. Am I making something that is in this world, or am I making something that's inspired by this world? If you go too far, people might tear you a new one. Got some tunes going on.
Yeah, man.
Hey guys.
Hey Sam. Welcome to the VFX process.
My adrenaline's running. This is the first time I've ever done something like this. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sam, it's all chill and there is no pressure. It's really laid back. We just hang out.
Appreciate it. No, I'm excited to be here.
We're going to be chatting about a short fan-made film, the amazing IP, The Last of Us. Yeah, can you just introduce who you are, your name, and a little bit about your background, Sam?
Yeah, my name is Sam. I go by Samster on YouTube. I'm kind of just a VFX CGI generalist / director. And basically what I do is I like to make fully CGI animated short films using the most advanced motion capture technology I can get my hands on, really, and also the most advanced softwares that I can get my hands on as well. A lot of the time is through telling stories in franchises that we all know and love, and then occasionally I'll do a bit of a sprinkle of an original story here and there, and then I also make some like behind the scenes content showing everyone how I made it, and then I'll also live stream as well my process through creating these short films, so people can always jump in, see what I'm working on, and ask questions. And yeah, that's pretty much my whole life.
Amazing.
Pretty much.
Dedicating to the craft.
I like to keep it transparent on my channel and just like show people the good, bad, and the ugly, because it's not always fun.
No, it's not always fun.
You know, there are headaches, there are struggles. And so I think it's important to show those bits as much as the highlights.
Yeah, a lot of head scratching, a lot of head banging, and
totally
slamming the door and leaving the room for 3 days and coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of other people out there on YouTube that do the same thing. And, you know, people love that. I think there's a big hunger for authenticity nowadays because there's a severe lack of that in certain areas of the industry. So it can make the industry and the creative workflow feel much more approachable.
Yeah, that's a great approach and a really good attitude. Talking of attitude and mindsets and things, you've got a Rocky Balboa quote on the wall there.
That's been the big part of my life. My dad actually got me really into the Rocky movies when I was younger. Not to bring down the mood, but I was bullied pretty brutally as a child to the point that I actually had to leave school.
Really?
There was a clip I think it's a pretty famous clip, everyone knows it, but the one where Rocky is talking to his son on the street.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He would make me watch that every single morning while I was having my breakfast before he took me to school, where I had to put up with those bullies.
I'm getting goosebumps, Sam.
Yeah, no, it was, and it was both my parents together really doing that. Like, they are absolute legends. Like, I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for my parents. Like, the things I'm good at, I got good at because I kept getting back up and kept pushing forward. And, you know, everyone goes through that. Everyone has that resistance. And so for me, it's like, I like to have that up there, you know, as like kind of a reminder of that period of my life, and also other periods of my life where there's been struggle, as everyone does. And yeah, just, you know, keeps me motivated, I guess.
Hell yeah. It's amazing to know that happened and you overcame it in such a way, you know, that's incredible, man.
Just keep getting back up, and you don't have to do it alone. You know, use the people around you to help you get back up. And as cheesy as it sounds, things do get better.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Hey everyone, got a brand new series of content coming. Can't go into too much detail just yet. What we're doing is we're announcing it on our newsletter. If you want more information and want to be the first to know, sign up to the newsletter. The link's in the description. I just want to say a massive thanks to everybody that supported the VFX process so far. It really does mean the world to us. So thanks so much. Let's get back to the video. So university then, the courses of learning VFX. Can you briefly give us a kind of a rough timeline of university, leaving, and then what did you do after that?
I studied a course called Digital Arts. It was kind of a pivot for me and a bit of a risk to take for me because up until then I'd actually been doing acting. But I knew that as a kid, I loved watching all the visual effects behind the scenes for things like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and Star Wars movies as well. Like, this is crazy. This looks like magic to me. So took that risk. Unfortunately, quite soon into it, I started that course September 2019.
Oh, so literally just before. Oh, right,
just before. So it was not long after that COVID kicked in. You know, especially with something like visual effects, it's like you can't just do it on some terrible laptop that you have at home. A lot of the kids didn't have laptops at home because they just couldn't afford it. You know, they didn't come from rich families. And so kind of worked through that those 3 years, got to work on my final year project. And that was where I got into the fully CG animated short film kind of things. So for my final year project, I did this. Have you ever played the games Little Nightmares?
Yeah, I have played that a little bit. Yeah.
So
really cool.
Yeah, amazing. We were like, this make something like this, you know, inspired by this. So we created this little looping animation of this little kid in a hospital gown with a gas mask because we didn't want to do any
gas
facial
mask,
animation.
Yeah, of course, it's efficient.
Want to play it safe.
Yeah.
And then, well, to be a bit of a curveball, we got an announcement from our course leaders saying the university has been hacked.
Oh shit.
When they tried to hack it, the system actually had a fail-safe, but the way that it prevented them from accessing the data was from destroying the data.
Oh.
It's self-destructed, essentially. At that time, I was actually recovering from surgery. I had just had my appendix removed, and I was at home with my parents, and I was like, what am I supposed to do here? And they were like, yeah, so you've got 1 month now to recreate all that work that you did in 3 months.
Shit the bed.
You know, similar to, you know, once again, the poster kind of thing of this is a kick in the balls for sure, but you're going to get back up from this and you're going to recover from this. Like, take all of this energy right now and let's push this towards something that can actually, let's try and solve this issue. And so at the time, I actually had a car that I had saved up to afford for a long time. I sold my car to afford the last PC in stock that had a 3090 GPU in it. And then myself and my two friends just crunched. I barely slept that whole month. I kind of had just thought in my head, like, okay, you've got to lock in. You've got to go for it now. Like, this is that moment where the door is closing and it's like, do you just go, never mind, I'll wait till the door opens again? Or do you just take the leap?
It's great that it really does go back to that kind of mindset and approach from being in school, the rocky moment. It really, it seems to be ingrained in you of like, when there's a challenge.
Yeah, I dig my heels in.
We can jump straight into We Few Survivors. It's a short film, fan-made film of The Last of Us. Can you just tell us how that came about?
It started where I released a trailer for a ambitious project called Dark World. It's something that I'm still working on with a good friend of mine. Things just got delayed because we didn't expect the attention it got. We're almost finished now with the script on that. So that will be hopefully something down the line that, you know, we'll be able to show more. Me and my friend who are working on this film were able to convince a good friend of his to invest some money to allow us to afford some Rococo motion capture suits. And that really unlocked the capabilities. Now we're not restricted by hand animation. Now we're not restricted by whatever we can find on Mixamo and really start to think about telling stories. So started making like some Star Wars short films and Real Steel short films. And then I got reached out by an amazing guy called Robin. He is a professional actor. He does a lot of stuff with motion capture. He's worked with people like Andy Serkis in motion capture and stuff like that. He was like, hey, mate, I've seen your work. I've seen the stuff you've been putting out on your channel. I'd love to do something together. You know, he told me how he had access to a Vicon motion capture volume, which was really exciting because it was like the next level above Rococo. Like I love Rococo. My channel would not exist if it wasn't for their suits, and I still use their stuff to this day, and I will continue to use their stuff. But I was like, I can't pass off this opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And at the time, I was actually writing a Last of Us piece that at the time was only going to be about 60 to 90 seconds long. It was going to be pretty condensed, pretty short, and to the point, but with the same goal of just encapsulating what makes The Last of Us, because it's my favorite video game of all time. Like, I just love that dark and gritty and naturalistic and realistic storytelling where you're like, I could see this happening. And he also loves The Last of Us. And so we were like, okay, well, let's run with this. Let's like actually flesh this out. And so, you know, I was able to rewrite it with the context of being able to use this Vicon volume. From there, we had 2 days to shoot it. So we had a half day with a handful of people doing a lot of the infected motion capture. We actually went through quite a fun bit of training at the beginning where I was explaining to them all the different stages of infection, the different characteristics that show off these different stages, how the runners are just very aggressive, quick, erratic, just go for it. The stalkers are very stealth-like. And then you have the clickers, which are just terrifying. And, you know, there's no humanity left at that point. And then obviously the bloater, which is just completely unrecognizable as a human. And then, you know, I did some like breath work and meditation with them to really get them into character, because I knew that being in a tight mocap suit with ping pong balls on you and someone saying, you're an infected, there's a person over there, attack them. Like, that's pretty hard to imagine when, you know, you're hiding behind a chair. They were all so talented and dedicated. And obviously the main shoot day was incredible as well, like actually having everyone there. And then it was my job to bring everything into Unreal Engine, make it look nice, and then get it out there on YouTube for everyone to enjoy, really.
And was that a school of actors then? How did they get put together?
So it's East 15 Acting School in Southend. Robin had access to all of the students. They have a motion capture volume there, and very gracefully they gave me access to that. We had like a bit of a rehearsal process as well, and then also before that we had an audition process, which kind of caught me off guard, because I thought it was just, we'll be lucky if we get 5 people interested. Like, I was ready to get the suit on and just play every infected. Like, I was like, look, I'll do it. Because before then, it had just been me. Like, you know, there's a short film on my channel called Deja Vu. Both characters are played by me. But a lot of people were really interested and wanted to be a part of it. And that was really exciting.
Were they aware of the show The Last of Us and how to move, like, you know, clickers? And
I did create like a little document just explaining the movement and the lore behind this fungal infection and how it works and how it spreads in the body and how that is why they move certain ways. I don't think I talked to a single one of them that said, no, I've never heard of The Last of Us. So it was just really going through and showing them footage from the games, because my goal was I wanted this piece to feel like it was part of the games and that you could see it as almost like an anthology episode that maybe Naughty Dog could release. You know, Naughty Dog is much higher quality than me. You know, there's been a few comments, this is better than anything Naughty Dog's done. And I'm like, look, I appreciate it, but just straight up facts, that's not true. Like, their stuff is so high up there. Like, it's incredible the amount of detail they put into their stuff. And, you know, I can only hope to reach that level. But that was kind of like the goal with this, is I wanted it to feel part of that same world.
I've got a question here actually about working with, referencing a big IP like The Last of Us. How much are you creating, you know, for yourself, and how much is kind of keeping the fans happy? How do you find that balance? Because fan-made films, they can get torn apart, or they can really totally hit and nail, you know. It's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, there's always that risk. I love The Last of Us. I love the world of The Last of Us, and I want to do right by The Last of Us. But I also want to tell my own story while still being respectful to that world. So it's less for the fans and more for myself as a fan of that franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what other fans can see and sense with, say, yourself, Sam, that's made this short, they can see that you're a fan.
There's been a few people that are going, oh, you were really smart releasing it around the same time that the new season of the show came out. Like, you're really matching the hype. And I was like, dude, that was just pure coincidence.
Yeah. It just got done when it got done, and this is when it got done.
Like, it was kind of one of those things where, like, when I first started making it, I had no idea that the new season was coming out then.
Brilliant. How long did you spend on it from start to finish, Sam?
I would say probably 3 to 4 months was about the time that was spent on it. Majority of that time being in post-production, because I was the only person. Like, all the visuals are done by me. Like, it was an incredible team. Robin is co-director, me as director / VFX supervisor, although I was the only VFX artist on it, so I don't know if I can take that title.
Sam, you take it, man. You deserve it.
I'll take it.
Take it.
But, you know, obviously the incredible cast, and then also the incredible crew. Had an assistant director. We had some technicians as well, helping make sure that all the mocap was getting recorded properly. And then I had an incredible friend of mine called Linus Kent. He is an incredible editor / sound designer, also just filmmaker in general. He's an incredibly talented guy, and he did the sound design, which I think really completed the piece. I think without his talent with the sound design, it wouldn't have been as successful as it is being, because sound design is one of those things that can make or break it.
Absolutely, man. Just finishing up on like the IP side, are there any boundaries that you shouldn't cross when kind of creating a fan-made short film? Because you can take it in any direction you want.
I would say that as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, you need to make the decision early on. Am I making something that is in this world of this franchise, or am I making something that's inspired by this world in this franchise? You need to make that decision very early on, because the way you present it to people, if you present it as, I imagine this being in the same world, people are going to judge it through that lens. And if you go too far, people might, tear you a new one. But if you make it clear from the get-go that it's inspired by that world and you do love that world, but you're wanting to create something that also has your own ideas, then people will watch it through that lens and, will still be able to very much enjoy it without being like, well, hang on, no, that would never happen, or this person would never do this, And so it's just kind of making that decision early on. And so, like, with this Last of Us one, my decision very early on was, I want to make something that pays homage to the franchise and really encapsulates the feeling that I get when I play the games. I want to encapsulate that. And in order to achieve that, I have to stay loyal to the lore, to the world, to the characters, to the brutality of that world. Like, it's really important to prime your audience. People have even criticized the second game for doing that. When something's fully CG, like the cutscenes, you can kind of swap out characters, and they did that for a few shots in the trailers for the second game, where they swapped out some characters for Joel,
and people lost their minds and was like,
it gave the illusion that Joel was in later stages. And I understand why they did it, because people were onto them. People were already guessing that Joel was, spoiler alert, but Joel was heading out, and so going golfing. And so they were like, I understand why they had to do that, why they had to try and like cover their tracks. But what it did is it primed the audience to expect something that it wasn't going to be.
And this might sound like an obvious answer, but is it easier or harder to create a short film with so much reference material?
Yeah, I do think it is easier when the franchise already exists. However, it also depends on the type of story you're trying to tell. Like, if the story's really out there and like nothing anyone's seen in that franchise before, it might be just as hard as creating something that's completely original, because you have no reference, because not a story like that has not been told yet in that world. So, but I think generally, yes, it's definitely easier with a pre-made franchise, and it does better with views as well. Like, I've created original stories. Like I mentioned before, there's a horror film that I made that's called Deja Vu. It's about a man being stuck in this loop in a hotel, and he's kind of just being tormented, and it did well. And I'm glad, the people that watched it, they enjoyed it, but it didn't do as well as the Real Steel short films or the Last of Us short film. Because
of the way social media, people see titles and they're interested in it, it's naturally
going to... I know that.
Yeah.
I'll check this out. Whereas, like, if they scroll and they see Deja Vu, they go, wait, what's this? Yeah. In order to get it to an audience that will enjoy it, I need to make other stuff based in franchises that people will recognize. So it brings traffic to the channel.
Definitely.
And then I can go, hey, by the way, here's some stories that I'd love to tell. I think you'll enjoy them as well. And then, you just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great approach as a filmmaker. You can create original stories, which is amazing and brilliant, but then also IPs can attract attention and draw spotlights onto you, and they'll explore you more and kind of find out, this guy, this is great, I'll check out this, I'll check out that. And then before you know it, you've got a follower, you've got a fan. So moving on to the tools that you use as a filmmaker, there's so many tools that are available for filmmakers now, which is incredible. Can you just talk about your kind of tool set and softwares that you use for your short films?
At uni, I was first taught Maya. That was the first software I was really exposed to. But basically, towards the end of my third year of uni, I started to look at the price, and I was like, once my student account runs out, I can't afford this. That's a lot of money. So I was like, I've got to start leaning into other softwares that are free. So 2 months before I graduated, I started learning Blender. And then about a month later, I started learning Unreal Engine. Basically, my plan was when this thing runs out and I don't have access to Maya anymore, I want to hit the ground running. So that was that kind of transition into a Blender Unreal Engine hybrid. I kind of do a lot of my 3D modeling in Blender, and then I do my texturing in softwares like Substance Painter. I used to hate texturing, and then I discovered Substance Painter, and I was like, oh, I love texturing. This is so fun. And then for things like compositing, I use Nuke. I used to be predominantly After Effects or Fusion, which is in DaVinci. I obviously saw that the industry standard was a Nuke, and a lot of people come to expect Nuke from artists. So I knew if it was like, okay, if I want to land a job, which I need, I need to start learning this software. I need to start learning this node-based system.
You saw Unreal Engine 5, you thought this is perfect as an indie filmmaker. Is it the power of the real-time side? So being in the scene, exploring as a filmmaker, almost like being on set.
Yeah. No, it was so exciting. There's a short film on my channel called Jedi Master. There's two. Jedi Master 1 was made entirely in Blender, and then Jedi Master 2 was made entirely in Unreal Engine. When I was making the first one, it severely limited what I was able to do, because I was like, the more I put into this, the longer it's going to take to spit this thing out. And even just rendering one frame would start taking forever, Okay, I need to figure a more efficient workflow. And so that's where I started being like, I'm going to take advantage of things like Lumen, things like Nanite that Unreal Engine 5 has, where I'm able to view all these high quality assets just in real time, and I don't have to worry about it. And it allowed me to really focus on storytelling, stuff that keeps people watching your content and enjoying your content, which is the main focus for me. Is I want people to enjoy it. I want people to have fun watching it. That's all that matters to me. And so the aspects like good storytelling and, good cinematography and good animation and things like that, I was able to put a whole new level of focus onto it.
Only a Jedi can slay a Sith.
What kind of challenges then for The Last of Us did you face? When you got into Unreal Engine, let's say from there, you get the motion capture. It's exciting because you can start retargeting it, put onto these characters. Can we talk about some of the challenges along the way?
I would say, even though Vicon is one of the most advanced motion capture technologies out there, it still has flaws, and every single motion capture technology out there has flaws. The main issue for Vicon was there's a scene in the film where the main character gets ambushed by a handful of raiders.
It's a brutal scene.
Yeah, it's a brutal scene. Yeah. It was great fun. We had another guy called Robin, who's a fight choreographer. He came in and he was actually one of the raiders.
Very clever moment with cutting just as hands need to interact.
Dude, but nightmare. Speaking of difficult parts, that, for example, because the moment you go over 3 people in a Vicon volume, you start to get a lot of twitching in the hands, in the shoulders, just in general.
Not a great scene if they're not clickers. Maybe if
exactly. Exactly. It was perfect for that. Like when we recorded that mocap, I remember his name's James. He was the technician. He was like, Sam, there might be a bit of twitching here or there on some
You're
of the...
perfect.
I'm like, great. That's awesome. Let's like play it up. Let's ramp it up. Let's play with those animation curves and push it. But for the non-infected people, it was like, okay, we need to fix this. So it was learning that process of smoothing that stuff out and, removing those twitches. And yeah, I would say that Raider scene was the most challenging because it is so much data and it's a lot of moving parts. But it's also like narratively and using cinematography, I've got to make sure that the audience isn't like, what the hell is going on? I've got to really make sure this doesn't just look like visual noise. And it was the last sequence that I did before we released it because I was like, I need as much time as possible to work on this. It felt very satisfying to see it all come together.
I'm just rewatching the scene, actually, the brutal scene that we've just spoke about. And
nice.
That's the moment where he stabs, and he looks up to the camera and like you really feel that stab there. And
dude, it was intense on the day.
That's it.
The intensity that whole team brought to that Raider scene was so awesome. Like they just went for it. A fun fact actually about that sequence, none of them have head rigs on because we knew it was going to be so intense. We were like, we really don't want you to have to worry about a phone on a head rig slapping each other in the face. Like it just wasn't efficient. So we were like, look, I'll do it later. That gap of choreography, every single character, the facial capture is just me. It's just me in my room watching it back and just going, yeah.
So you're there syncing up your performance with the scene essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Talking of facial capture, can you just talk about how you approach that, Sam?
I have a Rococo head rig, which is awesome. I use it all the time, and Robin had one as well. And so we were able to use those and then some iPhones, and we created some metahuman identities for all of the different people in the cast. And then from there, we were able to just record using the Live Link Face app, where it takes the normal camera and the depth camera, and it takes the data from both and kind of combines them to try and create really high fidelity stuff, especially for the fact there's no tracking markers at all. It's pretty awesome. Once I've processed that in Unreal Engine, I would then clean it up because it is good enough to use just raw facial mocap. It is good enough for certain projects, but for this one, I wanted a level of fidelity, a level of emotion that the audience would really feel it.
No, please.
We want to talk about how you brought clickers to life. Did you grab a model from online? What was the modeling process like?
The models for the clickers and the model for the bloater, I did not make those models myself. Those are models that I found online and bought from a very talented artist. However, they were rigged for Blender. For this project, that just didn't work. I wasn't able to get the retargeting to really work with the Vicon mocap in Blender, but I was able to get it working in Unreal Engine. So I was like, okay, I need to completely re-rig these characters myself. So I used a software called AccuRig. It's basically an advanced version of Mixamo.
Yes, it's great.
It's pretty awesome. I for anything that I need rigged for Unreal Engine, that's what I use. And then I used the awesome new, is it like auto retargeter or something that Unreal Engine now has? I was able to use that as well with them now rigged for Unreal and kind of move that motion capture from the Vicon mannequin and the rig to the clicker rig or the bloater rig, and it looked really nice. And then obviously I would bake it onto the rig and clean up certain parts because there were imperfections that I had to clean up. But a lot of it I was able to keep because it kind of works for the twitching and, as we were saying, all the different movements. The runners and the stalkers, however, are all metahumans.
Okay.
I would take the body and the head of a metahuman and I would bring them into Substance Painter, and I would just basically use this paintbrush inside of Substance Painter called veins and paint these black, disgusting veins underneath the skin on the face or on the body, on the forearms, to really push it towards that visual. I'd play with the textures of the eyes as well. I'd make the pupils tiny, so they looked really insane and really agitated, like they were ready to just destroy whatever came in front of them.
The performers for the clickers and all the infected, in the behind the scenes, they look so accurate. They look so good.
So good. Just their performances were just so incredible. They were all amazing, but one in particular that stands out to me is a guy called Louis. He's actually featured in the behind the scenes video because not only can he perform as a clicker, but he can actually do the voice of a clicker.
Amazing.
A lot of the clicker noises in the short film are him. It would be hilarious. Like they'd be warming up, and then all of a sudden we hear this clicker screech from downstairs, and all our heads would snap down. We were like, "Whoa, are we in The Last of Us? What's going on?
Oh shit, it's happening."
Yeah, exactly. We're like, "Oh no, we brought it to life. We've dug too deep." But it was all just so exciting, and then to see it in the scene on the actual infected with the cinematography, it really was just that moment where you're just like, oh, "Come on." This is amazing. Like there were multiple points where I was jumping up and down.
It's so exciting when you see it really come to life, and especially when you're working with such good talent. It's like another level, isn't it?
For sure.
Sam, we want to just touch now on just advice and just wrap up on what you learned from it. Any advice that you can give to other filmmakers? Can you give any advice for people that kind of want to start making short films, really kind of leveraging the power of something like Unreal Engine?
I think it's really important to remember why you did it. And I can at least speak for myself and my friends as well that got into this. We got into it because we loved it, because we thought it was fun, because as kids we were like, oh my days, I can create worlds. Anything I've imagined, I can create it now. And that excitement and that magic was what sucked us into it. And we didn't care about how many views, or did it convince investors, or did we make more profits this quarter compared to last quarter? Like that stuff's irrelevant. That adult BS, like ignore all of that. Just come back to like, why did you get into this in the first place? And that way you won't be burnt out. And that way you won't wake up going, oh, I don't know if I have the motivation to work on this. Because for you, you'll be like, I can't wait to work on this because I find it fun. I find it interesting. So find that story, or find that way of telling stories. It doesn't have to be fully CG animation. It can be traditional filmmaking. It can be stop motion. It can be 2D animation. It can be music. It can be anything, really. Please remember why you got into it.
That's so true, Sam. And any advice for those kind of imposter syndrome? I don't want to share it because it's not good enough, or it's not as good as this video that I saw last week. Any advice for if somebody in that space?
Yeah, so there's a great quote from one of my favorite visual effects artists of all time. His name is Clint. He goes by Punisher on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
he does
absolutely.
The render challenges. Mm-hmm. He's originally from Corridor Digital. He has an incredible quote that he says, "It is better to get it done and get it out there and learn from your mistakes for the next project than to never get it done in the first place and never learn from it in the first place." Like, I hate the term magnum opus because it gives you the feeling in your head that this is as good as I'm going to get. So I can't release this, because if I release this, then this is where I am when I want to be up here. And the reality is, no project you work on is going to be your magnum opus. Nothing is going to be the best thing you ever make. So focus on the journey, not the destination, as cheesy as it sounds. Like, really just focus on learning, growing, getting it out and going, look, I wanted to do this, this, and this, and I wasn't able to achieve it. But guess what? Damn, am I motivated to make those things happen in the next project. There's plenty of things in We Few Survivors that I'm upset with. I look at and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have made that better. Like there's a ton of flaws, but I just use that passion and that frustration that I'm experiencing when I look at that, and I go, well, in the next project, I can fix those.
In years to come, you'll look back on We Few Survivors, as proud as you are at the time and as great as it is, Sam. Even you will look back and go, what was I thinking then? It's
exactly.
More bonkers to see, but you that shows your progress and improvements, and it's natural.
Exactly. Because it's like, dude, in 20 years, you're going to think that's dog water. You're going to look at it and you'll be like, what is this? Like, why did I put that out and think it was good? And then in another 20 years, you'll look back and think the same thing. So it's really irrelevant. Just fall in love with the improvement.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. You talk about burnout, Sam, and try to avoid burnout. Any advice for kind of, working on projects and juggling other things?
I have a full-time job as a visual effects artist, and then I also do freelance on the side, and I have my channel. So it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But again, like I said before, when you fall in love with the process of growing, it's quite hard to get burnt out, because when things don't go your way, you just go, well, there's always the next project. Like, consistently stay slightly uncomfortable. So you're always pushing yourself. And it's very hard to get burnt out when you're doing that, because you're always getting stimulated by new things. And, it's almost like having a treat hanging out in front of you, and you keep following it rather than just constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again. And because that's where burnout comes.
For sure. As a filmmaker, Sam, what does Samster do to kind of detach at times? Maybe you don't fully switch off because it's something that you love, and you might be out in the woods and you're thinking about making the short film. It's natural, of course, But what does Sam do to kind of separate at times?
I mean, that's a great question. Like, if my mum and dad were here, they'd roll their eyes right now. They'd be like, yeah, we're wondering that too. What do you do? I struggle with it big time, to the point where I've made some decisions on fully focusing on work that has negatively impacted social life. I just don't go out that much other than work or go to the gym. Now that this project is done, I'm in a place where I'm starting to focus on, let's take care of our physical health, or let's take care of my mental health or my spiritual health, and just really just focusing on regaining that balance. It's been a pretty crazy last 6 months. 6 months ago, I moved to London, started this new job, and, I've just had so much going on that I haven't had time to have that balance. It's also what I love, so it's hard for me to view it as work. It's like, oh, but it's what I love to do. It's, so when I have free time, it's like, I want to do it. But, it's also just finding that balance to be like, well, you've got to take time to feed your spirit.
You mentioned earlier about meditation. You was doing meditation with the actors and getting into character. Is that something that you practice?
It was like this, I'd written out this monologue trying to help them get into character, where I was just saying, just dark and creepy things about being infected and what the fungus is doing to the body.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And just, had that kind of meditation. But for me personally, it's just things like prayer. Personally, I'm a Christian, and so I like to spend time with Jesus and pray with him, and that keeps me centered. I've been through some dark times, and that has helped me as well, as well as family, as well as friends. That's really been the light at the front end. So I guess that would be my version of that.
Yeah.
Other people, I'm sure they love meditation. I have a few friends that love doing it. There's even some people at my workplace that sometimes come in early to do meditation and stuff at 9 a.m. because we start at 9:30. So they'll go in for that 30 minutes and all come together and do something. And it's, just
nice.
Kind of, I guess, keeping that balance.
Where are you working at the minute, Sam?
So I'm working at a studio called Studio B. It's a visual effects film production studio ran by a YouTuber called Brandon B.
Okay.
He has a little over 15 million subscribers. I'm part of his VFX team.
Oh, great.
It's great for learning. I learn so much, especially because I am predominantly a CG or 3D generalist rather than a compositor. But at this job, I get to do a lot of that compositing using Nuke and combining my skills in Unreal Engine and Blender, and learning all these different aspects. I get to go on set and be VFX supervisor and learn so much about filmmaking, and then I can come home and be like, oh wow, I learned something really cool at work today. How about I apply that to this film I'm working on for my channel? So
amazing, man. We want to just say thanks for your time. It's so great to chat and hang out. But yeah, any shout outs to the Last of Us crew? Any thanks?
Yeah, if people would just check out the short film on my channel. It's called We Few Survivors. In the description of the video, it's got the whole cast and crew in there. They were an incredible group of people. We had an amazing screening of the short film last week, which was really, really special, just to be as a thanks to them. That was really the reason why I arranged that screening, is just to be something for them as a gift of thank you for taking the time to be a part of this project and being so committed. And they loved it, watching it on the big screen, and it was a really special moment for everyone. And yeah, I just go there, you'll see everyone's handles and just show them all some love, really.
Awesome, man. Well, to everybody listening or watching, please, just go and check out Samster's YouTube, socials. We encourage everybody to support you and everything that you're doing. It's so exciting.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, got some pretty cool stuff cooking right now that I hope should start to see the light over time. And yeah, man, just thank you for having me. Like I said, this is the first time I've done something like this, and
use natural,
it's been really fun.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And again, we really appreciate your time, Sam. So thanks a lot, man.
It's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice one, Sam. Really good to meet you, and I'll catch you soon, Sam.
Yeah, 100%.